I stared at the two pink lines on the pregnancy test, my heart racing with a mixture of joy and anxiety. After 3 years of marriage and countless discussions about starting a family, this should have been our perfect moment. Instead, I was sitting alone on the edge of our bathtub, wondering how my husband would react. My name is Lucy, and this was the moment everything in my life began to unravel. I tucked the test into my pocket and headed downstairs, where Ethan was hunched over his laptop at the kitchen island, his coffee going cold beside him. The morning light caught the worry lines that had become permanent fixtures on his face lately. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Do you have a minute?" He didn't look up. "Can it wait?" "I'm reviewing these quarterly reports before my meeting with Henry. I think you'll want to hear this now." I pulled out the test and placed it next to his laptop. "We're going to have a baby." The silence that followed felt like a physical weight. Ethan finally looked up, his expression unreadable. He picked up the test, studied it, then set it down with the same careful precision he used when handling corporate contracts. "Are you sure?" His voice was flat, clinical. "I took 3 tests. All positive." He pushed back from the counter, running his hands through his dark hair. "Lucy, this isn't. The timing isn't great. The company's going through restructuring. There are rumors of layoffs. I know things are uncertain at work, but..." "Uncertain?" He let out a harsh laugh. "We're bleeding money. Henry's been in closed-door meetings all week. Do you have any idea what a baby costs? The medical bills alone." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the warm spring morning. "We've been planning for this. We have savings. Savings that might need to keep us afloat if I lose my job." He turned back to his laptop, his shoulders rigid. "We should discuss options." The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. "Options? Be realistic, Lucy. We can't afford a baby right now. Not with everything that's happening." My hand instinctively went to my stomach. "I'm keeping this baby, Ethan." He sighed, the sound tinged with frustration. "We need to think about this logically. Your teaching salary barely covers our mortgage. If I lose my position..." "Stop." My voice came out stronger than I expected. "This isn't a business decision. This is our child." Ethan's phone buzzed, and he grabbed it like a lifeline. "I have to go. Henry's waiting." He gathered his things, avoiding my eyes. "We'll talk about this later." As he headed for the door, he paused. Don't tell anyone yet. Not until we figure things out." The front door closed behind him with a quiet click that felt somehow more final than a slam. I sank onto one of the kitchen stools, my hands still pressed against my stomach. Through the window, I watched Ethan's car back out of the driveway, noticed how he checked his mirrors with practiced precision. Everything measured and controlled. My phone lit up with a text from my sister Jenna. "Did you tell him? How did it go?" I stared at the message, tears blurring my vision. How could I explain that the man I married, the one who once talked about building a family with such enthusiasm, had just treated our baby like an unfortunate line item in a budget report? Another text from Jenna. "Hello? Don't leave me hanging." I wiped my eyes and typed back, "He knows. We're still discussing it." 3 dots appeared as she typed her response, but I put the phone face down before it came through. I couldn't bear to see her excitement, knowing what I now knew, that somewhere between our wedding day and this morning, my husband had become a stranger, and I was carrying a child he saw as a liability. The pregnancy test still lay on the counter where Ethan had left it, those 2 pink lines now feeling less like a promise and more like the first cracks in the foundation of my marriage. The first prenatal appointment wasn't supposed to be like this. I sat alone in Dr. Eleanor Green's waiting room, scrolling through work emails on my phone while trying to ignore the happy couples around me. Ethan had texted an hour ago, "Emergency meeting with Henry. Can't make it. Take notes." My sister Jenna's voice echoed in my head from our conversation last night. "He's being a jerk, Lucy. You deserve better than this." But marriage isn't that simple, is it? You can't just walk away because things get hard. "Lucy Abernathy?" The nurse called, and I followed her down the hallway, my footsteps echoing against the tile floor. Dr. Green was exactly as my friend had described her, warm eyes, silver hair, and a presence that immediately put me at ease. She looked up from my chart and frowned slightly. "Is your husband joining us today?" "Work emergency," I said, the excuse sounding hollow even to my own ears. She nodded, her expression neutral. "Well, let's see how this little one is doing, shall we?" The cold gel on my stomach made me flinch, but nothing could have prepared me for the sound that filled the room moments later, a rapid, steady heartbeat that made my own chest tighten with emotion. "There's your baby," Dr. Green said softly, pointing to the screen. Strong heartbeat, measuring right on track at 8 weeks. I blinked back tears, wishing desperately that Ethan was here to share this moment. My phone buzzed in my purse, probably another work email. After the ultrasound, Dr. Green sat down across from me. "Lucy, I notice you've listed some concerns about stress and anxiety on your intake form. Would you like to talk about that?" I hesitated, twisting my wedding ring. "It's just work stress. My husband's company is going through some changes." She studied me carefully. "And how is he handling the pregnancy news?" "He's..." I searched for the right words. "Processing it." "Processing it how?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Ethan. "How did it go?" "Need numbers for budget planning." Dr. Green caught my expression. "You know, stress isn't just emotional. It has physical effects on both you and the baby. I've seen many women try to handle everything alone, thinking they're being strong. But sometimes, being strong means asking for help." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "I'm giving you my personal number," she said, writing on a prescription pad. "Not just for medical concerns. Sometimes you just need someone to listen." Walking to my car afterward, I called Ethan. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice distracted. "Hey, I'm heading into another meeting." "The baby's healthy," I said quickly. Strong heartbeat. "I have pictures." Good. "Listen, Henry's implementing cost-cutting measures. We need to talk about our expenses. Can you put together a spreadsheet of expected medical costs?" I stopped walking, my free hand clutching the ultrasound photos. "Ethan, did you hear what I said? Our baby has a heartbeat. We saw them today." "Lucy, I'm trying to make sure we can afford this baby. That's what matters right now." His voice turned sharp. "I've got to go. Henry's waiting." The line went dead. I stood in the parking lot, watching a young couple emerge from the clinic. The man's arm protectively around his partner's waist as they laughed about something together. My phone buzzed again. "Jenna, how was the appointment? Want to grab lunch?" I started typing a response, but my vision blurred with tears. Instead, I called her. "Hey sis," she answered cheerfully. "How's my future niece or nephew?" "Healthy," I managed, my voice cracking. "Everything's healthy." There was a pause. "Where are you?" "I'm coming to get you." "The clinic parking lot." "Jenna, I don't know what to do." He didn't even want to see the pictures. "Stay there," she said, her voice hard with anger. "I'm 10 minutes away." "And Lucy?" "This isn't okay." "What he's doing, it's not okay." I ended the call and leaned against my car, looking down at the ultrasound photos. There, in grainy black and white, was my baby, our baby. But increasingly, it felt like I was the only one who saw it that way. Dr. Green's card felt heavy in my pocket, a lifeline I wasn't ready to acknowledge I might need. Behind me, the clinic door opened again, releasing another happy couple into the sunshine, their future seemingly as bright as the morning sky. Mine felt increasingly shadowed by storm clouds. I never meant to find the emails. I was looking for our tax documents on Ethan's laptop when a notification popped up. Singapore relocation package, confidential. My hands trembled as I clicked the message. The timestamp showed 3 weeks ago, right around when I told him about the baby. The email chain detailed a senior position at their Singapore office, complete with housing allowance and international school credits. School credits. For children we didn't have yet. Children he apparently didn't want. The front door clicked open downstairs. I quickly closed the laptop, my heart pounding against my ribs. "Lucy?" Ethan called out. "You home?" "In the office," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Looking for the tax forms." He appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. "Those are all digital now. I'll send them to you." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Were you on my laptop? When were you going to tell me about Singapore?" The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan's face went through a series of micro-expressions before settling on something between anger and defensiveness. "You went through my emails? Don't deflect. How long have you been planning this?" He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. Now it just seemed calculated, like everything else about him lately. "It's just an option Henry presented. Nothing's decided." "Nothing's decided?" I stood up, one hand instinctively going to my stomach. "They're offering you school credits, Ethan. You've clearly been discussing this for a while." "This is exactly why I didn't tell you," he snapped. "You're getting emotional instead of looking at this rationally. This could be huge for us. Better salary, lower taxes, a fresh start." "A fresh start?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "What about my job? My doctor? Our families?" "Your job," he scoffed. "You're a teacher, Lucy. They have schools in Singapore. And with what they're offering, you wouldn't need to work." The casual dismissal of my career, my independence, hit like a physical blow. "So that's your solution? Ship us off to another country where I know no one, have no support system, while you're working 60-hour weeks. At least we'd be able to afford the baby." The words hung in the air between us. I stepped back, suddenly seeing him with perfect clarity. "That's what this is about, isn't it? You're running away from our baby. I'm trying to provide for our future." He slammed his hand on the desk, making me jump. "But you're too wrapped up in your pregnancy hormones to see that." My phone buzzed, a text from Jenna checking in. I ignored it, focusing on Ethan's flushed face. "When did they offer you this position?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Lucy." "When?" 2 months ago. The timeline hit me like ice water. "Before I got pregnant. You were planning to leave before you knew about the baby." "I was planning for our future," he said, his voice softening in that patronizing way I'd grown to hate. "Come on, Lucy. Think about it. A new adventure, just the two, 3 of us. We could start fresh." I walked to the window, looking out at our carefully maintained suburban yard. "Did you accept already?" His silence was answer enough. "When do they want you to start?" "Next month." He moved behind me, not touching but close enough that I could smell his expensive cologne. "They need someone in place before the quarter ends." "Next month. When I'd be entering my 2nd trimester. When I'd need my support system most." "I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow," I said quietly. "Dr. Green wants to do some routine tests." "About that?" He cleared his throat. "I've been looking into hospitals in Singapore. They have excellent healthcare. I'm not going." "Lucy." "I'm not going to Singapore, Ethan." I turned to face him, surprising myself with how calm I felt. "You can go if you want, but the baby and I are staying here." His face hardened. "Don't be ridiculous. You're my wife." "Yes," I said, moving past him toward the door. "But I'm not your property." I left him standing in his home office, surrounded by his carefully organized life plans that were starting to crumble. My phone buzzed again. Jenna, still waiting for a response. This time, I answered, "Can I stay with you for a few days? I need to figure some things out." Her reply was instant. "I'm coming to get you. Pack a bag." The spotting started during 3rd period. I'd been teaching my 5th graders about fractions when a wave of dizziness hit me, followed by that telltale warmth. In the staff bathroom, I saw the red spots on my underwear and felt my world tilt sideways. Dr. Green's office squeezed me in that afternoon. "Bed rest," she said firmly, reviewing my charts. "At least 2 weeks. The bleeding isn't severe, but with your stress levels and family history of difficult pregnancies, we can't take chances." I thought about my classroom, my students, the upcoming parent-teacher conferences. "I can't just." "You can, and you will." She leaned forward, her eyes kind but stern. "Lucy, your body is telling you something. Listen to it." That evening, I sat at our kitchen table, staring at the unpaid leave forms while Ethan paced behind me. 2 weeks. His voice had that sharp edge I'd grown too familiar with. "That's half a month's salary, Lucy. And what about your sick days? We need those for when the baby comes." The baby might not come at all if I don't do this. The words came out harder than I intended. He stopped pacing. Don't be dramatic. Women have been having babies forever. My mother worked right up until. I'm not your mother. The forms crumpled in my fists. I'm bleeding, Ethan. Our baby is at risk, and all you can think about is money. Someone has to. He slammed his hand on the counter, making me flinch. The Singapore offer is still open. Better healthcare, better. Stop. I pressed my palms against my temples. Just stop. My phone lit up with a text from the principal. Take all the time you need. Your students will be here when you're better. Ethan saw the message and scoffed. Must be nice having a job where you can just disappear for weeks. Something snapped inside me. You mean like disappearing to Singapore? That's different. How? Because you're the man? Because your career matters more? Because I'm trying to save us. His voice echoed off the kitchen tiles. While you're playing house with this baby fantasy, I'm trying to keep us afloat. The silence that followed was deafening. I stood up slowly, one hand protectively over my stomach. Fantasy? My voice was barely a whisper. Is that what you think this is? He ran his hands through his hair, his wedding ring catching the light. Lucy, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I walked to the drawer where we kept our financial documents and pulled out the folder I'd prepared earlier. Here's your reality check. Medical bills, insurance coverage, my leave calculations. I've done the math, Ethan. We can afford this baby. What we can't afford is your fear. He wouldn't look at the papers. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Henry's watching everyone like a hawk, and with these cuts. No, you don't understand. I felt oddly calm now, like I was watching us from somewhere far away. I'm bleeding. Our baby's heart might stop beating. And you're worried about Henry's opinion. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the window, I saw Jenna's car in the driveway. I called her, I said, gathering my purse. I'm staying at her place until the bed rest is over. You're leaving. His voice cracked, showing the first real emotion I'd heard from him in weeks. Lucy, we can figure this out. I paused at the door, remembering how he used to talk about having children. How his eyes would light up at the thought of teaching our kid to ride a bike or read bedtime stories. You know what scares me most? I turned to face him. It's not the bleeding or the medical bills or even the thought of being a single mother. It's that somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing us as your family and started seeing us as a liability. The doorbell rang again. Ethan stepped toward me, but I held up my hand. I need these 2 weeks, Ethan. Not just for the baby's health, but to figure out if there's anything left here worth saving. I left him standing in our kitchen, surrounded by the scattered papers of our carefully planned life, while I walked toward my sister and whatever uncertain future awaited us. You need to be there. Ethan stood in Jenna's doorway, his corporate smile firmly in place. Henry specifically asked about you. I hadn't seen him in 12 days. The navy suit he wore was new, probably for the company's annual leadership gala tonight. The event I'd forgotten about until he showed up unannounced. Dr. Green said bed rest for 2 weeks. I kept my voice steady, grateful Jenna was in the shower and couldn't witness this. The gala doesn't qualify as rest. The 2 weeks are almost up. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Lucy, Henry's making the Singapore announcement tonight. How will it look if my wife isn't there? The word wife hit like a slap. Now he remembered I was his wife? I'm still spotting, I said. And I haven't agreed to Singapore. His jaw tightened. 3 hours. That's all I'm asking. Wear something loose. No one will even notice you're pregnant. And there it was. The real reason he wanted me there, to hide the pregnancy he was so ashamed of. Fine. The word surprised us both. Give me 30 minutes to get ready. He blinked, clearly expecting more resistance. I'll wait in the car. After he left, I pulled out the black dress I'd brought from home. It still fit, though barely. As I got dressed, I caught sight of myself in Jenna's full-length mirror. At 14 weeks, my bump was visible if you knew to look for it. Ethan's words echoed in my head. No one will even notice. The gala was exactly as I remembered from previous years, all forced laughter and political maneuvering disguised as small talk. Ethan kept his hand on my lower back, steering me through the crowd like a prop. "Lucy." Henry Caldwell approached, champagne in hand. "Wonderful to see you. We've missed you at these events." Before I could respond, Ethan jumped in. "She's been busy with her teaching career. You know how it is with budget season." Henry's eyes narrowed slightly. "Actually, I'd love to hear about your work, Lucy. My daughter's considering teaching." "Ethan," a colleague called from across the room. "Henry needs you for the announcement." "That's my cue." Ethan squeezed my arm, a warning, not affection. "Lucy, why don't you get some air? You look flushed." I watched him walk away, leaving me alone with Henry. The room suddenly felt too warm, too crowded. "Are you all right?" Henry asked, genuine concern in his voice. "I just need a minute." I headed for the terrace, but the dizziness hit halfway there. I grabbed a chair for support, feeling the familiar warmth between my legs. "No, not here. Not now." I made it to the bathroom, locked the stall door, and saw the bright red staining my underwear. More than spotting this time. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone to call Dr. Green. Before I could dial, Ethan's voice came through the bathroom door. "Lucy? The announcement's starting. Where are you?" "I'm bleeding." My voice cracked. "I need to go to the hospital." Silence. "Then, can it wait 20 minutes? Henry's about to." "I'm bleeding, Ethan." "Your baby is." I stopped, realizing I'd raised my voice when I heard gasps from outside. The bathroom door opened. "Lucy?" A woman's voice. "Do you need help?" "She's fine." Ethan's voice was tight with anger. "Lucy, you're making a scene. Just clean yourself up and come out. We'll deal with this after the announcement." Something inside me crystallized in that moment, hard and sharp and irreversible. I opened the stall door. Several of Ethan's colleagues' wives stood there, their faces a mix of concern and curiosity. Ethan waited by the door, his expression thunderous. "You're right," I said, my voice eerily calm. "We should go out there. Everyone should know exactly why you're so eager to take that Singapore position." His face paled. "Lucy." I walked past him, out into the ballroom where Henry was approaching the microphone. My dress was stained, my makeup streaked with tears I hadn't realized I'd shed. "Congratulations on the promotion, Ethan," I announced, loud enough for nearby groups to turn. "I'm sure Singapore will be everything you hoped for. I'd stay to celebrate, but your baby and I need to get to the emergency room." The silence that followed was absolute. The emergency room lights buzzed overhead as I lay on the examination table, still wearing my stained gala dress. Dr. Green had rushed in, her face tight with concern, but her presence couldn't mask the emptiness I felt. The baby was safe, barely, but I'd need complete bed rest for the remainder of my first trimester. "I'll write up the orders," she said, squeezing my hand. "But Lucy, I need to know you'll follow them this time. No more corporate events." Before I could respond, voices erupted in the hallway. "Sir, you can't go in there," a nurse's protest. "That's my wife." Ethan's voice, sharp with anger. "And my career she just destroyed." The door burst open. Ethan stood there, his perfectly tailored suit now rumpled, his face flushed. Behind him, I glimpsed Henry Caldwell speaking urgently with hospital security. "Are you happy now?" Ethan's words slurred slightly. He'd clearly been drinking. Henry pulled the Singapore offer. Said he needs someone with better judgment and family values. Dr. Green stepped between us. "Mr. Abernathy, this is not the place." "No, it's exactly the place." He jabbed a finger in my direction. "You couldn't just wait 20 minutes? Had to make it all about you, didn't you?" "About me?" My laugh sounded hollow even to my ears. "I was bleeding. Our baby was in danger." "Was it?" His voice dropped dangerously low. Or was this another manipulation? Like the pregnancy itself? The room went silent. Even the medical equipment seemed to hold its breath. "What did you just say?" My words came out as a whisper. "You heard me. The timing was too perfect, wasn't it? Right when my career was taking off, suddenly you're pregnant." Dr. Green's clipboard clattered to the floor. "Mr. Abernathy, leave now, or I'm calling security." "No need." Henry's voice cut through the tension as he entered the room. "Ethan, you're suspended pending review. Give me your company phone and ID." Ethan's face drained of color. "Henry, you can't." "I can and I am." Henry's voice was steel. "Your behavior tonight showed me everything I need to know about your character. Or lack thereof." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan looked at me one last time, his expression a mix of hatred and desperation that made my skin crawl. Then he turned and stormed out, leaving nothing but the lingering scent of expensive cologne and broken dreams. I didn't realize I was shaking until Dr. Green touched my arm. "Lucy, I'm fine." The lie tasted bitter. I need a minute." Henry stepped forward, his face grave. "Lucy, I owe you an apology. I saw the signs but chose to believe Ethan's explanations. I should have." "Please," I cut him off, unable to bear his kindness. I can't think about any of this right now." The fetal monitor beeped steadily, the only reminder that I wasn't completely alone. My hand drifted to my stomach, feeling the slight swell that had cost me my marriage, my security, everything I thought I knew about my life. What am I going to do? The words slipped out before I could stop them. "First, you're going to rest," Dr. Green said firmly. "Everything else can wait." Henry cleared his throat. "And when you're ready, we'll talk about your options. Real options, not ultimatums. The company has resources." "I don't want anything from the company." My voice cracked. "I don't want anything from anyone. I just want." But I couldn't finish the sentence. What did I want? The Ethan I thought I married? The life I thought we were building? Everything felt like a lie now, tainted by his final accusation. The monitor's steady beeping continued, a rhythm that seemed to mock the chaos of my thoughts. Outside my room, I could hear life going on, nurses chatting, phones ringing, other patients with other crises. But in this moment, I had never felt more alone. Or more terrified of what tomorrow might bring. 3 weeks after the gala, I sat across from Henry Caldwell in his office, my divorce papers tucked in my bag. The city skyline stretched behind him, a reminder of the corporate world that had almost swallowed my life. "I wanted you to hear this from me first," Henry said, sliding a folder across his desk. "Ethan's been terminated. The board's investigation revealed. Concerning patterns." I didn't touch the folder. "I'm not here about Ethan's job." "No." Henry leaned back, studying me with those shrewd eyes that had seen through Ethan's facade. "Then why are you here, Lucy?" Before I could answer, the office door burst open. Ethan stood there, security guards close behind. "Sir, he wouldn't stop," one began. "It's fine," Henry said, rising slowly. "Let him speak his piece." Ethan looked terrible, unshaven, suit wrinkled, eyes wild. His gaze locked onto me. "You just couldn't let it go, could you? Had to make sure I lost everything?" "I didn't do anything," I said quietly. "You did this yourself." He laughed, harsh and brittle. "Right. Innocent Lucy. Always the victim." He turned to Henry. "Did she tell you she trapped me? Got pregnant on purpose to force my hand? That's enough." Henry's voice cracked like a whip. "No, it's not enough." Ethan slammed his hands on Henry's desk. "You want to know the truth? 20 years ago, when Sarah was pregnant with your first kid, she did the same thing to you, didn't she?" The room went deadly quiet. Henry's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Oh, he never told you?" Ethan's smile was cruel. "Our noble boss here almost took a position in London. But his wife got pregnant, used it to guilt him into staying. Cost him the biggest opportunity of his career. Is that what you think happened?" Henry's voice was dangerously soft. "Is that the story you've been telling yourself to justify your behavior? I've seen the personnel files. You were next in line for CEO. I chose my family." Henry cut him off. "Nobody trapped me. Nobody forced my hand. I looked at my priorities and made a decision I've never regretted." He walked around the desk, facing Ethan directly. "The fact that you see children as weapons and marriages as power plays says everything about you, nothing about us." Ethan's facade cracked. "You don't understand. I had plans." "So did I." I stood up, one hand on my growing belly. Plans for a family, a future, a husband who'd love our child. Funny how life works out. Lucy, his voice softened, trying for the charm that once won me over. We can still fix this. I'll get help. We'll go to counseling. No. The word came out stronger than I expected. I'm not interested in fixing something that was broken from the start. I came here today to give you these. I pulled out the divorce papers. You can fight it, drag it out, waste more money on lawyers. Or you can sign them and let me move on with my life. Move on? He sneered. To what? Teaching kindergarten as a single mother. Actually, Henry interjected, Lucy's been offered a position heading our company's educational outreach program. Full benefits, flexible hours, on-site childcare. Ethan's face contorted. You're giving her my job? No, I said before Henry could respond. I'm creating my own path. Something that doesn't require me to sacrifice my soul or my child's well-being for a corner office. Security finally stepped forward, but Ethan was deflating, the fight leaving him as reality set in. He looked at the divorce papers, then at me, seeing perhaps for the first time the woman I'd become instead of the one he'd tried to control. You'll regret this, he said, but the words held no power anymore. No, I replied, gathering my things. The only thing I regret is not seeing you clearly sooner. But our baby helped me find that clarity. So in a way, I should thank you. Your worst fear brought out my greatest strength. I left him standing there, Henry's quiet approval and the security guard's presence ensuring my exit would be dignified. In my pocket, the first ultrasound photo of my baby, my future, crinkled softly with each step toward freedom. 6 months later, I stood in my new apartment, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold. At 32 weeks pregnant, my daughter, yes, a girl, kicked steadily against my palm as I sipped my morning tea. The doorbell rang. Jenna had been checking on me daily since the move, but this early? I opened the door to find Henry holding a worn leather briefcase. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said. There's something I need to share with you. I led him to my small living room, where boxes still waited to be unpacked. He settled into an armchair, pulling out an old envelope. My wife Sarah wrote this, he said, the day I turned down the London position. I've never shown it to anyone else. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting elegant but firm. My dearest Henry, I know you believe you're sacrificing your dreams for us. But sometimes life's greatest opportunities aren't the ones that look best on paper. I looked up, meeting Henry's eyes. He nodded for me to continue. Our child won't be a barrier to your success. She'll be the reason you succeed differently, more meaningfully than you imagined. Trust me when I say that 20 years from now, no corner office will compare to watching our daughter graduate, fall in love, find her path. My voice cracked. Henry quietly finished. Sometimes the dreams we think we're giving up are just making room for better ones we couldn't imagine before. Why are you showing me this now? Because yesterday, Ethan came to my office. Henry's expression was grave. He's completed 6 weeks of therapy. Wants to make amends, see the baby when she's born. My hand instinctively went to my stomach. What did you tell him? That it wasn't my decision to make. He placed Sarah's letter on my coffee table. But I wanted you to have this perspective before you made yours. After Henry left, I sat with the letter, thinking about choices and consequences. My phone buzzed, a text from Dr. Green reminding me about tomorrow's appointment. Below it, an unread message from Ethan. I understand if you say no. But I'd like to meet for coffee. Just talk. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. I walked to the nursery, my favorite room in the new apartment. The walls were a soft green, the color of new growth. Jenna had helped me paint them, both of us laughing as we debated shade names like Springtime Whisper versus Morning Meadow. On the dresser sat the ultrasound photo from that first appointment Ethan missed. Beside it, my new business cards, Lucy Abernathy, Director of Educational Initiatives. The morning sun streamed through the window, catching the mobile of paper cranes hanging above the crib, a gift from Henry's granddaughter, who'd folded each one herself. For good luck, she'd said, and new beginnings. I picked up my phone, looking at Ethan's message again. The anger that had driven me for so long had faded, replaced by something calmer, clearer. I started typing. Coffee won't fix what happened. But if you're serious about change, we can meet with Dr. Green next week. Start with small steps. She deserves that much. I pressed send before I could second-guess myself. Then I picked up Sarah's letter again, running my fingers over words written decades ago by another woman facing an uncertain future. The baby kicked, and I smiled, remembering something Dr. Green had told me during that first terrifying appointment. Babies don't come with guarantees, Lucy. Just opportunities. She was right. There were no guarantees that Ethan's therapy would stick, that my new job would fulfill me, that motherhood would be everything I hoped. But standing in the sunny room, surrounded by evidence of the community I'd built from the ashes of my marriage, I realized something important. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying the person who hurt you. Sometimes it's about building something so beautiful from the wreckage that they're forced to witness your joy from the outside. I folded Sarah's letter carefully, placing it in the baby book I'd started. One day, my daughter would read it and understand that her story didn't begin with betrayal or end with revenge. It began with choice. My choice to believe in better dreams.